Hello and welcome to the Retail Journey Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Charles Greenhouse.
And I am James Harris, and today we're talking to Joshua Linden, sales executive from Bay City. Welcome to the Retail Journey.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Joshua, we've gotten to do a lot of interesting things together, from, building programs at retail as a merchant to being on this side to walking trade shows, Bay City, packaging, y'all into some corrugate, but that doesn't really describe it. Can you, before we, get too deep, I'd love to hear just a quick, Bay Cities. How would you describe what Bay Cities is up to?
Yeah, I think when I think about Bay Cities, I think about the people. As we're an employee-owned company, we take a lot of pride in what we do.
I love that.
And we're a strategic partner and end-to-end solution provider for not only retailers, but brands. So we're doing the design, we're doing the line drawings and the manufacturing, the fulfillment, and the end, solution with the logistics out to the retailers. And so we're really trying to be a part of that solution, whether it be Walmart or Sam's Club, Costco or Target. We're very retail centric. So we're focused on making sure that they hit all those marks so they understand the timelines across those things. So it's really start to finish to get those last 3 feet at the store level.
Yeah, love that. When I think of the whole journey, start to finish, being on time, in full, being thoughtful, showing up well for a customer, sounds a lot like what we do at iImpact. We don't have any corrugate.
Yes.
We don't actually build the physical anything in that journey.
The goal is to help brands win at retail.
Yeah.
Whether it's, through the analytics and understanding the cost models and things like that, or just the back end of how do we get this to stores successfully through supply chain without any failures or surprises down the line that are going to cost significant, dollars for those brands, or even the retailer if there's a mistake made.
Definitely a poorly executed pallet can really leave a mark.
Can really hurt.
I love that. So when you think of corrugated store, there's, a lot of people here that have experienced, or in our audience that have experienced, on the merchant side, having a plan and then seeing it either not come to life or, come to life successfully. Brands who've experienced, additional billboard in store, and many who haven't. What's the significance of getting something that's perhaps off shelf? How do you guys see that? Because you have a unique point of view of a whole lot of programs across the box, across categories, across seasons. What's the significance of having a secondary display, of having corrugate that can tell your brand story off the shelf?
I might be biased, but I think it's significantly significant. It's a part of the mix, right? And I think the last step is at retail, with a lot of consumers still going into stores. There's some different statistics out there, but it's between 80 to 90% depending on the category. And I think being on the shelf is great. That's the start of your journey. You want to get on shelf. I think if you want to stay longer, if you want a longer play, you want to make sure you're getting into the hearts of those shoppers. You need to be off shelf, whether that be on an end cap or a half pallet or a 4-way. Those are really important marketing and sales tools that need to be implemented so that you can have more success, so that those shoppers that are in stores can understand, be communicated to, this is new. Oh, when I come back, it's going to be in this section of the store, when that display isn't there anymore.
Yeah. And if demand is about to surge or is surging, you can't keep enough product on the shelf sometimes, right? The secondary display, whether it's a pallet or something else, might be critical.
It is extremely critical because they can drive traffic back to the store if they don't see it on that vehicle. It's a step that shouldn't be missed. And I think it's important for brands to also take that to their joint business plan meetings and how they're strategizing with the retailer and the merchant. They're oh, we're doing, media, we're doing social media, we're doing e-commerce, we got Walmart Connect. Well, what are you going to do in store? How are you going to make the customer have a really good experience? And I think, from the foundation of Walmart, that was what Sam pushed for. He wanted everyone to come in, have a good experience. Hi, how are you? Welcome. this is what you're going to get when you come in here. It's kind of like a party or, a celebration. And now that's not every single day at the store, but the goal is to get people to come back and experience something different that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And when you're using these merchandising vehicles, that's the best way
Right.
to pull that and tie it all together.
I love that, how they feel in the store, how they feel when they leave. In my last, few roles at Walmart, I got this placard from a friend that was displayed in my office, which was the feeling your customers have when they leave determines how quickly they return.
Exactly.
And, a display can play a significant role in like bringing something to the forefront of your mind that you didn't know existed, and that can, at times it might feel like, oh no, you're just pushing things. Like, no, guys, our household is gluten-free. And before we were gluten-free, I'm a bit of a child and I love Cheez-Its. And there are now gluten-free Cheez-Its. And if it wasn't on display in the aisle, I would not know. And I would still be living in that dark place that doesn't include gluten-free Cheez-Its. But now, by golly, because of display, because of presence in aisle, our family now knows we can have Cheez-Its again. The world is back. And that sort of capturing a moment, capturing innovation, being able to surprise and delight customers, to me is a huge part of what ends up happening when you do something off of the shelf.
Yeah. And I mean, it comes down to education and awareness. Like
Sure.
if they're not in the spot to be seen, they won't be known about. And if, maybe you're not seeing those ads, maybe you're not getting those pushes, notifications when you're near a store or, something where it drives you back to like, oh, I need to get this product. So again, like that's why I think in-store is the most important part, because it's usually the last thing brands think about.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, I just need to get it into the door. We're going to push all this, whether it be, actual billboards or print ads or digital or, whatever method they're using. This is, to me, is the most important part, because
You have an interesting kind of medium. Sometimes obviously everybody that sells product would love to sell extra pallets,
right.
Sometimes an individual product or even line of products maybe doesn't warrant entire pallet placement, but you still want secondary. You all will do multi-vendor pallets and other offerings, I assume. Talk to us about that. Like what's the rationale?
Yeah, I think what retailers are wanting, and I think this goes back to experience, is to allow customers to come in and get something different. Now, when you're doing multi-vendors, what you're allowing for is to get maybe a single product that may not be able to fill a complete display, and they just take up a portion of that. So maybe you can now go from having one supplier to 8 or 9 suppliers with potentially a single price point or multiple price points, depending on the seasonality of the program. And it allows for strong presence and also making it more feasible for those smaller brands to actually participate, because that's the last cost. They got their packaging, they got their product packaging. Extra is the last thing, in my opinion, that they want to pay for, because they've got all these other dollars that the retailers are asking them to spend, and then what they believe they need to spend. From a cost of execution, this is minor per store for the amount of eyeballs are going to be on that, the amount of education. You may even get some support from the retailer to talk about that in some of their promotion and their PR.
But one of my last jobs before pursuing high impact full time, I was with Warner Brothers on the DVD side back when that still was
DVD,
much more than it was today. So we hadn't quite, streaming hadn't quite started yet, but Netflix existed. They did the mail order thing, and new releases come out on Tuesdays for whatever reason. So Tuesday mornings, everybody started their day in this store. And the first thing you would see was the palette for the new release. It's just, I can think of several walking through this one spot in the main super center that I go to. And I think I've probably picked up more impressions from that one little location than I have anywhere else in the store. How have some of the more successful companies developed strategy around what their in-store strategy is going to be?
Yeah, I think they're all doing it the same, whether they're emerging brands or legacy brands. There is a specific playbook. I don't think that everyone's going to follow that same playbook. Not every product, as you mentioned, is going to make sense to be in a display.
Yeah.
Right. Some can have it, more and some can have less.
The thought process is there's a lot of in-store dynamics that will come into whether or not customers get to experience your product,
Right.
whether or not your product gets to grow a category, and display is a part of that, but certainly not all of it.
Correct.
And so as your view of lots of categories, lots of programs across time, where have you seen people most successfully gain new customers by having a comprehensive view of both shelf, off shelf, even display, assets beyond what happens in store, but specifically in store? What are the things that seem to really move the needle most?
Yeah, I think when it's in store, you can do things on shelf, right? Maybe you get a blade, or maybe you get some shelf talker that kind of allows you to stand out in line.
Yeah.
When you're looking at off shelf, you can also be just on the shelf, right? Like you don't have to be in some type of merchandising vehicle or PDQ tray. Like they'll just set you right on the shelf. That's great. But it doesn't communicate anything beyond them actually having to go pick up your product and look at it.
Yep.
I mean, my goal when I'm working with brands is to make sure that they can clearly see the display in education from that 10, 5 foot, 3 foot, all the way up to there. Like the goal is for them to pick up the product and put that product into their cart. Sometimes if it's a new brand or a new innovation that's in stores, it has to be extremely clear what that is, why it matters to them, whether it's like 0 grams of sugar or 15 grams of protein, or this is gluten-free or keto or whatever the thing is. That's going to trigger something in their mind to say, okay, this product is for me, or maybe this is the product that I've been looking for that I haven't found, or maybe it's for someone else.
Right. Well, I mean,
Like I've never been able to find this in Walmart before. Why is that? Like, and I think that like Walmart's really leaned into these emerging brands and taking risks because their customers changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're looking for products that aren't necessarily cheaper or better, but they're looking for, good ingredients. They're looking for brands that they can trust.
Yeah.
And so you see, $10 cereals now, or, $4 bars, like that stuff you would have never seen in a Walmart before, but they recognize that that's what their customers are looking for.
I think there's an element too, and this is just speculation on my part, but so much of grocery sales have become a OPD, or you get it put in your, the back of your car in the parking lot, or it's delivered to your house. But bringing in new things, innovative things, would be a reason to get people back in the store. I wonder if that's a little bit of beyond just the refill, the pantry. Actually come inside and see what we have.
Yeah.
And there's times where you need the instant gratification of having a product. The stores are by no means quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's been an enormous amount of growth online, and the stores are still
Quite
very active.
Yeah. I also think it comes down to timing and like what is actually happening within the environment. Is there something for stocking stuffer, or is there something for back to school? Like making sure that the brands know what those opportunities are that they can slide into, that are going to allow them to stand out, not just on the shelf, but like, hey, like this is something where they're actually, this is a part of a back to school thing. This needs to be in their backpack, or this needs to be in their Easter basket, and creating that story, so that they can have a better experience, so they can give their kids or someone else a better experience, because they know they can go to a Walmart and find the items that are going to make it special.
Well, that surprise of like the things you didn't expect to find.
Yeah.
That changes repeat shopping behavior significantly. I remember when I was buying vitamins back in the day, before Walmart had credibility in, non-GMO, really effective, clean label supplements in the VMS space, having them on the shelf was a silent pass-through. The customer that was buying organic produce was not walking down the aisle because they had in their mind that this was not a place where I can find supplements that are going to help me save money and live better. And that has changed dramatically. But the first step in that direction was the terrifying multi-vendor program that I had to launch in order to put in front of the customer the thing they didn't know.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was an operator that said, I'll go with you, Charles.
Yeah.
Which was critical for those merchants out there trying to do something a little bit wild. Having an operator on your side goes a really long way.
Yep.
Shout out Ken Sassy, thank you. And in that journey was either like, hey man, we're either going to celebrate the huge success that this created, or I'm going to thank you for working through it because it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Because if the sales rate didn't change,
Yeah.
then we were stuck.
A lot
And
of
then
inventory.
holy smokes, did it change? I mean, multiples on items where it's like, I know this is a really popular supplement. I don't think customers know that we carry it. It having a 2.5-inch slot in one position
Yep.
in a pusher on the Vitamin Mod is where it belongs day in, day out. But they don't even know we carry it.
Right.
And then once it was in the weekly, they kept coming to it. So it's not like they're mutually exclusive. It's like, hey, one of these is to help acquire.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't acquire by just doing the same thing that happens at shelf by having a little
Yeah.
1-inch bottle. It's you got to tell the customer, hey, there's this thing you didn't Walmart carries that they do. And by the way, the ingredients are incredible. And by the way, it's non-GMO. And by the way, it's in a brand you can trust. And that made way more than a month-long impact. Not because it took more than a month to sell through it, but because those were customers acquired into the reshop.
Yeah, and I think the communication at the shelf is one thing. You're seeing hundreds of brands all at once. You're going to be geared towards the one that you feel comfortable on, the one that you know about, or the one that you've seen on ads. And I think what's unique about what you just discussed is those are extremely complex executions. Like that is multi-vendor pass-throughs where you're taking, we used to do the SunCare Islander.
Yeah.
And that program has hundreds of planograms, hundreds of products, over 20 suppliers.
Yeah.
We have to not only get the
This will
core-
right. So
Yeah.
that's the
Logistics.
giant thing in Action Alley out in front of personal care where your sunscreen is. Because the side counter, to James's point earlier, can't handle, carrying all day, every day, the summer spike for sunscreen. They can
Put it
carry
in the right
sunscreen
place at the
totally
right
fine,
time.
But now you got mom, kids aren't out of school yet. We're not doing vacations yet, but they see it right there. And, you're for sure picking it up,
we buy
adding
that.
it to the basket.
Yeah, and it's
With
by
my
no
skin
mistake.
tone and having passed
Yeah.
that on to my progeny, we
go through some. We use that Islander, but yeah. So the Islander complex, not maybe to the merchant. That's part of what Big
Right.
Cities brings. It's not just
Yeah, we make it easy.
yeah. And I love what it does for the customer. I think the right merchant mindset isn't about driving brand growth in like off shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's about driving customer growth through brands or private brands or a collection of brands.
Yeah.
By giving them a solution to a problem they didn't know that Walmart was able to solve, didn't know they were able to solve in such a great way, didn't know this new and improved innovation was available. There's a lot of different reasons that you can delight that customer, but ultimately it always comes back down to the customer and how you might help them.
Yeah, and again, if it's not in front of them, they're not going to see it, especially if they're not looking for it. And when it comes to like entertainment too, I think that like that's a really unique space because not all those products are going to be in the store all the time, and they're surrounded in different locations, whether it be in pet or toys or electronics or apparel or consumables. Like to be able to put it in one place at one time in a very specific time frame, whether it's a movie release or something that's happening in that space, it's key because they're spending a lot of those marketing dollars and pumping things into the store. So if they're not on the floor on the time they're supposed to, they're losing dollars. So I think it's really important to obviously be on time and full and understand the different levers you can pull in the front end of that, whether it be switching from collect to prepaid so that you can make sure that you condense that timeline. Really, getting buyer approval and merchant approval in advance. Like, hey, here's the timeline. This is when we need cutoffs. This is when we need POs and confirmations. And I think the more brands can understand that in advance, the more successful they will be. And I know it seems simple. Oh, meet the MABD, right? Like get to the MABD, but do you understand all the steps that are required? What happens if logistics doesn't arrive? What happens if the product isn't going to get there on time and you have to ship a display partially empty?
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to affect your business and the relationships not only you have with the retailer, but with the consumers that are maybe looking for your product because you said, hey, we're in Walmart, go out there and get us. And then they go look for that end cap that they showed, Jake Paul showed on his Instagram.
Right.
Now they can't find it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they go to the aisle and find it there, but they need to be able to see it when they're pushing to the retailer.
Well, in retail, notoriously, you don't have many seconds with a person's attention to get their attention. Get them interested, sell them something. I remember at the beginning of my career, I would hear that you got 3 to 4 seconds, and I think it's quite a bit less than that now.
Yeah.
And then you think about the media fragmentation. Our attention spans are getting shorter because of our dopamine addiction on social media. Where an old corrugate, it's tried and true. And how often do you walk through a store and see somebody standing there studying the corrugate, the palette? So how do you talk to customers about looking at secondary display, corrugate, whatever it may be, as an investment in their marketing and brand building?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be a part of that mix. There's a lot of dollars to get put out there. This is where the rubber meets the road. Like, this is the most physical you can get outside of being on the shelf. And I think that that's the reality, is they're meeting it for the first time. Yeah, they saw the images on their social, their influencers really talking about it, but now it's the time for them to go find out if what they're saying is true. So to me, a little biased, but I do believe that's the most effective tool, billboard you can get. Because you can see it from a distance. It stays in stores for long periods of times. Associates know about it. They may be excited about it. They may even share it with somebody while they're walking through, or maybe with a friend.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a little bit bigger. And what's more unique is the opportunity to drive more engagement at the store level through these vehicles. So not only can an influencer or a brand drive traffic to a display in store, but maybe they have some incentive or giveaway that they can get while they're in the store. Maybe they're doing photography, taking a photo in front of the display, tagging them. Like, there are so many other ways to pick up different customers through that process. And I think that brands need to be thinking about it. It's a lot to think about.
I mean, I haven't heard many, if any, brand who doesn't want off-shelf display.
Right.
Yeah. And yet there's a small fraction that end up actually getting off-shelf display.
Yeah.
How would you counsel someone who's like, yes, I want all of that, but they haven't ever had it before?
Yeah.
And what are the things that are likely going wrong in their journey where that's not been something they've successfully executed?
Yeah, I think the first thing really comes down to packaging, their product packaging.
Yeah.
So some brands come D2C.
Yep.
Some are already in retail and their packaging is set because it will look good on shelf. They're not planning for it to be in a display. They're not planning for it to be in a PDQ or anything off shelf. So some of their branding and marketing that's on that packaging goes away. Maybe, the title of the product or whatever now gets hidden behind that 2-inch front lip.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now on top of that, maybe you're having to add additional materials or costs, because the biggest thing is the cost. This is the last thing. They've already spent a lot of money to get there. It needs to be thought about. Like, it needs to be an important part of that process and evaluating and understanding the cost, the timing, what that impact is going to have at the store level, and how do you build that 3 to 5 year plan with that, because you want to be in retail a long time. You want to continue to make money and support the retailer and, their category and continue to innovate. And if you're not looking at those vehicles, and I think there's some really good examples with like Bloom Nutrition. I think they're one that I've really enjoyed watching go to market. Mari and Greg were the founders, and they've done a really good job of, building their social community and getting them involved, but then taking that community, driving them to each of those new retailer channels.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're going to pump everything into Walmart for a little while. Then they're going to pump everything into Target for a little while. And then they're going to be using newspapers to try to get investors to come in. And then they're going to be, using normal billboards that you're going to see in high traffic areas. And then they're going to be doing end caps every quarter for multiple years, right? They're getting that space on the end caps. They're putting that into their negotiation strategy from the very beginning, and allowing the merchant and the retailer to understand that they understand.
Right.
because I think that's another risk is like, well, I don't want to give them this opportunity for them to flop it. And then I look bad as a merchant because I gave them an opportunity and then they didn't arrive on time or all these complications. And there's so many checkpoints where things can go wrong.
I love that. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who think, okay, great. I want to be on display off shelf. I've been thinking about that for 30 days. And this is the thing that I want. But what you just said is the great companies, like the good, you might be able to submit a feature proposal that is customer centric, that does maybe articulate what a category would do if this were to grow. But a great company is going to be looking ahead, and there's been building blocks put in place prior to even submitting for a feature. And by the time that you're submitting, it's because the right thing for the category is for your product to be off shelf. The right thing for the customer is for your product to be off shelf. Yeah. And I think that sort of foresight is one that can be difficult. Retail tends to be very tyranny of the urgent, and you're right here. But when you look up at the horizon and really plan where things are going to go and grow, you start thinking about that execution differently.
Yeah. It's an investment in the future, and many brands that I speak with don't always see that. They just see the cost, they see the complexity. They're like, I don't want to ruin this relationship, and they just don't do it. Yeah. Right. Or they complain about doing it, even though they're going to get the velocities that they need and the awareness they need to potentially drive them back to that shelf because, hey, I got that toothbrush off that end cap for Easter. I need another one.
Right.
Well, that Easter end cap's no longer there. Well, now where are they going to go? They're going to go to the toothbrush aisle. They're going to look, and they're hopefully going to find it because they recognize the brand, they recognize the product. And that's the best type of marketing. You want them to come back. And I do have a really good example from, so Kinder Seasoning was they've blown up. Like you see them everywhere. 2020 was a big time. And, they launched.
We were cooking at home for some reason.
For summer grilling, they launched a half pallet during that period of time. Extremely successful.
Yeah.
When we went out to stores, what was interesting, we would kind of watch the shoppers come up and engage with displays. And some of the people we talked to, they were already coming back more than once. They're like, hey, I came here yesterday. I picked this up because my husband needed something. And then I actually realized I needed some more seasoning. And I came over here to grab this style off your display. If that display wouldn't have been there, maybe they would have grabbed a different product or something that's, maybe a private label or maybe a different brand,
shopped elsewhere,
or even left the store because they didn't have something for them. Maybe they go to a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or wherever else, because people will do that. If they can't find what they want, they'll leave, they'll pull up their phone, they'll go to Amazon or whatever and make a purchase right there because then they can get it delivered. It's convenient.
Yeah. I always hated that, when it's like we did all the work, got them all the way into the store.
Yeah.
Right to the shelf.
Yeah,
they just
lost it.
Man, we were so close.
It's a huge miss
to keeping that customer.
Yeah.
I've been told the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. I feel like similarly here, it's like, hey, if 3 years ago you were really thoughtful about how you're building your brand at shelf, then that off-shelf display, you're totally ready for it.
Right.
So in lieu of it being 3 years ago, today, someone who's like, okay, I'm interested in partnering with Walmart or Sam's Club. I'm interested in exponentially growing. How would you counsel them as someone who's seen a lot of brands in their growth moments thrive and some stumble, how to prepare to make that moment successful?
That's a really good question on like how to make sure that they're successful. And I think there's a lot of deliverables there because it starts way before we even get the product.
Right.
Right. It's understanding those timelines. Okay, well, when do we need to manufacture this to hit this MABD? And are there any checkpoints where we're going to run it? Run into issues, whether there's port challenges or maybe you have shortages once we get your product into our facility. We're opening up, and that's sometimes, there's shortages there. Or, maybe you open up the box and there's nothing inside there, or there's mold, or who knows? Like there's
or
so
you're not
many
even
things.
anticipating the cost of packing out a display.
Right.
So you can want a display,
right,
and then be unwilling to
facility
execute the display.
Right.
And in open stock, you'll get more eyes on the product itself, but you might not actually expose your brand to someone who didn't know you before.
Correct. Yeah. And so I think really understanding all of those things up front is the most important part. Now, every supplier is different. Everyone has different timelines. I think what separates like Bay Cities from anyone else is the ability to move quickly.
Yeah.
We have technology on the digital side and the printing side to allow for that flexibility. I've had a lot of scenarios where brands are like, hey, a slot opened up at Walmart for this half pallet. Can you help me pull it off? It's 4 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you have a partner that can pull those levers efficiently and effectively enough to get you in there without failing?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a scenario where like we haven't even tested a display. We don't even know if it's going to survive. So now we're rushing product to us. We need to make sure they have those documentations. So when on the outbound, they say, hey, we took photos, we did the testing. This is exactly how it should make it through supply chain. So if there are any failures at the store level, at least you kind of have an insurance policy. Hey, we did the ISTA testing. Structure's good. Maybe we need to reevaluate what's happening at the store level.
That's the luck that people experience, except, luck is accumulation of the preparation
Making the
you've
right
done. So
decisions.
you're ready for the scenario. Those aren't plays you're running for the first time.
Yeah.
It's just you end up in the situation of solving something quickly.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, are they prepaid or collect? Do they understand that like you're going to go from potentially 7 days to 20 to 25 days if you go collect?
Yeah.
Now that just depends during the seasonality, but that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Like how do you build that into your timeline?
Yeah.
And I think we've been able to, even on these multi-vendor complex programs, been able to change things from collect to prepaid because the execution rate skyrockets.
Solve it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean,
Especially when it's big.
if you can take something from a 60% execution rate up to over a 90% execution rate just by switching to logistics, why aren't you thinking about that?
Yeah.
Sure, you're going to save some cost, but you're going to lose cost if that doesn't make it to the floor on time.
Yeah.
If it gets stuck on a trailer that's been dropped at the yard and they don't know it's there, or maybe it's in problem freight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of touch points, or maybe it's stuck in the back. Or maybe it got stolen from some, truck pirates. Like those things happen. And do you have a plan for it? Do you understand what's required in those moments, whether it be documentation or filing different, to make sure grievances, to make sure that you get paid on things that you may have lost?
Yeah. There's a whole journey. All of the suppliers know it, of like, there's a lot of different things you end up having to do throughout the journey. And, the merchants have a similar, bundle of complexities they're trying to solve. One of which is really crushing e-com. So as someone who's really focused on in-store execution, I thought it'd be fun to ask you about omni-channel.
Yeah.
And like, does it matter? Have you seen actual, like when you do a good omni-channel program with in-store and online activation, are you seeing those results differently than those that are just simply focused for in-store?
I think when they pull the data, I think there's groups like the Barcode group that really are able to dive into some of that data. And I mean, the lifts are good. Like, I mean, you're able to see what's happening by dropping these displays in the store. And so Yeah.
At least what we tend to see is when you can get the spike to happen online and in store, you trigger that behavior to shift from simply reordering online to exploring new things that are in store.
Yeah.
Because as a new product, you're trying to acquire new customers to your brand.
Yep.
And that most effective window into who your brand is digital.
Yeah.
And
You have to do both.
That's where we've seen it.
Yeah, you have to do both. I think that like on the digital sides, like you have to have your landing page. You have to show the product. I think making sure that it looks like what you're going to see in store, not just showing a pretty image.
Very important.
The product without it in its packaging, because that's a miss. I think you see a lot of D2C brands, they focus on that. They don't really focus on the product because it's just going to ship in a plastic bag or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it really has to stand out. But the data that I've seen really shows that they may not make that purchase online, but they will make that purchase in store, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And it is education and a touch point. Like maybe they're looking for chips and then something new pops up.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's a better goods brand.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what's transitioning to, is like there's so many more options, and the retailers are going into private label products that are elevated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there is
that's
more
a huge
competition
trend
out
right
there, and they do have to stand out if you're a brand going into retail, because there's a better price. And so what is your value proposition? Is it the macros, or is it just being able to stand out, or maybe it's just a lifestyle product?
Yeah.
Like how does this fit within what I do? Maybe I'm in fitness, maybe I'm, trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
Whatever that element is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it all comes back to the customer.
Right.
You know, when we do that really effectively, I think we always find the long-term success we were hunting for. I hope that it's, you know, helpful for those listening to be able to just dissect some of the things you might not realize about off-shelf display, the things you should be anticipating. When it comes to making it easy for your merchant partner and really articulating how this solution or the proposal of an off-shelf display is going to drive category growth. You know, you've watched a lot of proposals get turned down and proposals get approved. What are some of the things that you see between those that, you know, tend to be most successful?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the product and the category. Some, you know, it comes down to, hey, their product price is a little too high, so they can only get a certain amount on the display.
Like just the constraint of not spending that many millions of dollars to
correct, or like their product doesn't have a lot of margin.
or you're going to sell, you know, one a week.
There has to be a
put 40
strong
out there.
sell through, especially if they're only on floor for 4 weeks or 6, like whatever that time frame is. They do have to be able to sell through.
Yeah.
And so I think where we come into play is we're creating those planograms and we fully understand the structures and what can fit in there. And so we're giving brands and even the retailers the information to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should take this from a half pallet and put it onto a PDQ tray on a 4-way.
Yeah.
Like that's going to make more sense
Because we take
for us
the overall
because
quantity.
we've ran both cost scenarios, and you know what? It's still going to make the same impact. Maybe we double up and do 2 sides on a 4-way instead of this, you know, really fancy end cap that's going to, you know, take away from our margin. And maybe next time
So have a realistic.
we'll build in some different budgets so that we can do an end cap that's going to have, you know, a different impact. Or maybe it is a partnership where they're, you know, they're doing, you know, I'm trying to think of a really good brand that's doing so. I know like Poppy's done some really interesting partnerships. And it's like they're bringing brands together that may not necessarily be,
multi-vendor.
right? These
Less
multi-vendor,
smaller scale than the Islander.
correct?
Just
Yeah,
does that? But can you make that an easy button? So like, if I'm a merchant and man, I wish I could promote these 2 things on the same end cap. Is that easier to solve? Or
I think through multi-vendor programs, it's a very easy solve. There's not a lot of people that can do it successfully and efficiently. And I think that that's why we become I love the easy button term. I think that's why we're that way. We were strategically built here in this Bentonville division to support the merchants and the suppliers to make those better decisions so that they can.
worth noting, you're not visiting Bentonville.
No, I've lived here for, you know, I've been with Bay Cities over 12 years and, you know, I've lived here for 11 of those. And when we built this office, there was 5 of us.
Yeah.
How many now?
A little over 40.
Okay.
And every one of those team members is strategically in place to support, you know, project management, supply chain management, logistics.
Yeah.
And these are very complex executions where we're taking possession of a lot of dollars and we're responsible.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're very, you know, blessed and honored and humbled to have these opportunities because it is a big risk to the brands and to the retailer to make sure these things arrive on time and full. And I think that
And
it's
you take
not a
that risk 'cause
space.
you know how to execute.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a space that a lot of people want to play in because there's high risk.
Yeah.
There's a high reward for the retailers and the brands if we can pull this off.
Yeah. And you de-risk it.
We de-risk
For
it.
those
And
brands, for those
because
retailers.
we're an entrepreneurial company and we're employee owned, we know those levers internally. We can play around. Like sometimes if you're outsourcing to another company, they can't do that because we're stuck on these timelines. They can call me like, you know what, we're going to move some stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to play with the schedule here. We're going to do some overtime. I know you didn't want that. But we're going to hit your MABD date. You're going to look phenomenal. You're going to be happy. Your merchant's going to look really good. And they're going to want more of this.
Yeah.
You know, a great secondary location can really drive business, make it pop.
Yeah.
But we've all done this long enough to know that there have been a number of displays that didn't get the job done.
Yeah.
And that would be, especially for newer people or newer brands, to be able to discern, you know, is this a good idea? This style, this approach? Do you all counsel at all on,
Yes.
hey, this has worked in the past, this hasn't worked?
Absolutely. I think, again, it really comes down to the category because certain products are more likely to be in a sidekick over maybe, let's say you're in pet. Like you're going to see more sidekicks over there. You will see end caps, but they're few and far between because most people they know what they're kind of looking for over there, but they do have seasonal campaigns. So I think there's and your question is more like, what mistakes are they trying not to make?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think working with partners that don't understand the retail environment, that don't understand that, like, when they get into the back room, there's a whole bunch of boxes, brown boxes with yellow and pink labels.
All looks like yours. Yeah.
It all looks like yours, even though that's a part of the style guide. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Be big, be bold.
Right.
Do some, caution tape style graphics on there.
Yep.
Giant logo. Where is this going on the floor? What time does it need to be set?
When totally.
Yeah,
When is
like
such a driver.
where does it need to be set? Is it immediate set to the floor? Rush it to the floor? What are you putting on there that's going to make them know that this is more important than all the other stuff in the back room? And I know that from experience because I've worked in retail, I've worked in stores, front and back, and things get missed. They're focused on other things, especially when they're picking, especially when there's so many things going on, and maybe there's not always resources. Maybe they end up dropping a truck early. So now resources are pulled somewhere else. So they're not focused on resetting that program.
Yeah. There's a lot.
So I think brands work with us because we anticipate all of those different things. And maybe we learn something in a different category that we can apply to theirs or vice versa. I think it also comes down to, the creativity too. It's like, hey, look, they're doing this in OTC. We're not doing it over here. You should pitch this.
Yeah.
Because no one else is doing it.
Yep.
And the reason why it's not there is probably because no one else is asking for it.
Yeah, totally.
And so I think it's one of those things where if you don't ask the question, the answer is no. And if you show them that you're capable of doing it, you're working with a Bay Cities or someone that understands that environment, because there's not too many people in this ecosystem. They're like, oh yeah, we know Bay Cities. Yeah. That's what they do.
Well, I love the learning from one area and applying those learnings to others. It's a big part of our strategic placement of we're not trying to just be in one department. We're across the box on purpose. And frankly, there are some departments that have gotten past the, we should invest in Omni because we know it's strategic, but we don't know why. We haven't felt the impact, that have grown through that into, oh no, of course we need Omni. This is a significant driver of my business. And you don't get there unless you're doing the hard work of, running fundamentals and speaking to the customer through the digital platforms that exist across the ecosystem. And we can end up helping someone in one department that is, frankly, not even, front of forward thinking in another. Yeah. Another department's like, well, yeah, of course we're doing that. Of course we're leveraging Walmart Connect on search spend. And then some department is like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We should do that. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of different departments, there's a lot of different priorities across the box, and learning from the things that work really well and applying them to others has been really effective. I love that you get to see it across the box as well. It's the same, track around the box.
And it's all retail channels, and they're all different, and they all do it a little bit different. And I think
you learn from other retailers.
Right. Right. And I think we kind of talked about that in the pre-conversation, is that there are other retail channels that are doing things different. Mm-hmm. I think Sprouts is a really great example of a retailer that understands their customer and what they're looking for, because you see it when you walk into their forager section.
Yeah.
You got the the ketone IQs out there. You got the, everyday dose now in there. You got the Formless Beauty that's in there. Yeah. They are really pushing that type of product in there. And what's really unique is when you go in there, they're sold out.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, you missed it. Mm-hmm. And it creates this, I want to come back. I want to get this product. And maybe it is online, but it's a really good testing ground. And I think other retailers should be paying attention to them, especially Walmart, because I think there's a lot that they can learn from that kind of strategic hotspot, because they've done things like that, but not on the level where hey, here's all the emerging brands that we have. Here's all the better for you products that we have. And maybe that's a mix of legacy, emerging, and private label, because there are different people that want different things, and they have different budgets and different preferences.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that some of the private brands are in fact emerging.
Right.
At Walmart.
Yeah. Well, they are.
Done a really good job of pushing innovation to private brand. I think there's a lot of interesting bits of the future I expect to see there, and love, Better Goods as an example.
Yeah.
Just what it's meant for the customer. and what they come to expect at Walmart.
Yeah. And another good example of a brand that's leveraged outside channels really well, I think, was like be Dr. Squatch. So like if you go into a Tractor Supply, you're going to see an end cap with their product on that. Was that something that you would expect to see at a Tractor Supply?
Right.
No. And they're doing more of that. They're looking for better products that are going to meet their customers' expectations.
Yeah.
The great thing is those retailers have such trust built into, so they're like, hey, if it's in here, I trust this brand that they're trying to give me this retailer, they're trying to give me the right thing.
Yeah.
So there's just so many interesting spaces in the grocery area too that like I don't believe Walmart takes advantage of. Like if you walk into a Kroger or an HEB, like you're going to see a lot of floor stands and test products. I don't see that a lot in the neighborhood markets or even in the grocery stores. It's very clean, which is great. But how are you going to drive traffic to these emerging brands? Like I think those smaller footprints with low product count, so it's not a huge investment. It ships more sustainably because you have a smaller footprint. You're not shipping as much air. I believe that those are opportunities they need to be leaning into. Now, there are brands that are doing it like Kinder's and McCormick, and they've kind of understand that ecosystem. I've seen a few hydration companies do that as well. That space is competitive.
Yeah.
But if you're not planning for it, if you're not talking about it, you will not win it.
Right.
And they're not just going to hand it out to you, because why would I just hand it out to someone? I don't know if they know how to do it.
Yeah.
So you have to be very convincing in that story. And sometimes it is literally people just dropping, I'm working with Bay Cities, and they're like, you're good.
Done. Yeah.
We know them.
Love that.
So,
But when we talked about moving quickly and rapid innovation, we talked a little bit about how you guys are leveraging AI.
yeah.
AI is a very interesting topic right now as it can empower a lot of different work streams, and specifically in this retail and supplier relationship, it seems to be coming up a bit more often.
Yeah.
To hear your
Yeah. I mean, there's so many tools that are being leveraged in retail to make sure that customers get what they're needing, but also retailers and the brands.
Yeah.
From our standpoint as a direct manufacturer and a company that is a strategic partner for retailers, you have to think about like that whole process. Like where we use it in the manufacturing side is to create efficiencies through the supply chain. So we understand like what corrugate needs to be done.
Yeah.
or
Right.
How do you move things through our plant better and track things better, or catch things on the line when it's running through production, so that we don't have to have waste, because that's things that suppliers don't ever get to see.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, like this got maybe, the registration's off. So now we got to, our tools catch that. They know that those things are happening, so we can stop the machine, make the adjustments, keep going.
Yeah. The faster you find out or anticipate a problem, the cheaper it is to solve it.
Right. Yeah. And so I
Certainly a
think
tenet of how we operate.
yeah. And I mean, it's also helping us on the graphic side and the creative side, because we're able to use some of these tools to pull these things in faster, where things might have taken a few days. We drop a grayscale in there, we drop in some product imagery and some, elements, and we can get something quick, right? Because there's a lot of these requests like, hey, I got a meeting tomorrow. Like,
Right.
AI is going to help us get there faster. Now, is that going to be the final vehicle we go with? Probably not.
Probably not.
Because we got to run it through structure. We got to make sure the product sizing and all those things are
Well, that
fine.
expertise is the critical missing piece, and AI just simply helps your journey maybe go smoother or get to that product faster.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you guys are approaching facilitating conversations on AI. I think this episode will air before your next event. You want to give a quick overview of what that is?
Which event is that?
The supplier conversations.
Oh yeah, supplier conversation. So, I mean, really what that's about is really digging into like how AI is going to be better, across the channel within stores. Our part of that is just really, making sure that we can work with those different technologies that our brands are using to create better information and understand what we can do to better serve not only the retailers, but the brands that we partner with. Because again, like if you're not using these AI tools or you're afraid of them, like you will be left behind.
Yeah.
And you will lose dollars, because there's things that it's catching that most humans aren't catching.
Yeah. We don't want you left behind.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So as we wrap and move to a lightning round, would love to hear kind of what you're reading. What are you consuming these days?
What am I consuming on the reading side? Oh man.
Or listening, watching, whatever.
That's a really good question. I wasn't prepared for that one. I'm reading a lot of different things. I think what someone that I've been really following on the social media side would be Gary Vee.
Yeah.
And because he focused more on like the advertising and marketing, but it's all about gaining attention. We're in the attention economy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and if you're not able to grab attention at every step of that process, whether it be on their phone or on their TV or on YouTube, and driving them back to wherever you need to drive them, like it doesn't matter. And so like you have to stand out, you have to be loud, you have to be doing something different, you know, and I think there are some really good brands that are, you know, they're controversial, but like that's okay. Like you don't want everyone to like you.
It's also exactly Gary Vee's style.
Right. And I just do believe that like if there's anything around that, like it's an attention economy. And if you're not aware that like that's the most important part, like that's just a step. I know displays, you know, maybe someone's not thinking about that, but like that's what's going to get you attention at the store level.
Cool.
So that's my perspective.
We talk a lot about learning from our failures.
Yeah.
What's your biggest retail related failure?
Oh man, not necessarily related to us. I think there's
Those are the best kind.
Yeah,
right?
there's
The
a
ones that
lot
aren't
of
your
ways for brands to, you know, failures are going to happen. I think it's how you respond to failures, and also knowing which one's going to be worse, right? Sometimes neither option is going to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
But which one's going to have less of an impact on your business? I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really can suck up dollars is when you have to send in an in-store team to fix something that shouldn't have needed to be fixed.
$100.
Right. So I think our goal is to create vehicles that are simple to execute at the store level by associates. Like that's the goal. If you can't do that, there's a scenario where, hey, your product didn't arrive on time, the one unit, or maybe it's not quality or whatever, you ship a display partially empty. So now you're having to pay an in-store team like an Anderson or a Costa or whoever to go into stores, potentially, I'm not gonna give you the cost out there, but like they can
You get
spend
4,000 times you get to fix it.
Yeah, you got to fix it 4,000 times. And even if they're paying 25 to 40, I don't know what they're paying for a store, but like that adds up really fast. That could be $150,000 out the door, and it was a mistake you weren't planning for.
Oops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oops. And where are you going to put those dollars? Where's that going to go?
Yeah. No, I think we've all seen those. And it's always great when we get to stop it.
Yeah.
When we get to solve them.
Hopefully you can stop it in advance. And I think, again, like store failures, like on displays. And when I see those, I'm like, man, that partner really dropped the ball on them.
Yep. Happens.
They did not care enough about that brand to make sure they tested it or really focused.
So retail is
Things that
detail.
matter. Yeah.
Boy,
Retail is detail.
does that hurt when you find out after you shipped it?
Yeah.
All right, last one. Looking ahead over the next year, what's something that you're excited about? You're anticipating being exciting over the next year?
I think there's a lot of new brands that are going to be disrupting the space.
Yeah.
Grunes, great example. They just got purchased.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that just happened. That news just dropped yesterday for Unilever. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that happening, especially within the emerging brand space. And I think that like they're going to be doubling down on those off-shelf features, like emerging brands that are coming to market for the first time. Like, I mean, for the very first time are coming to the table with these options because they know the playbook. They know this has worked for Bloom. They know this has worked for Kinder's. They know this has worked for Dr. Squatch and all these other brands. And so they know that that's the strategy, especially if they're in a competitive space where there's some incumbents there that dominate. And so they have to stand out. And the only way to do that is off shelf.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's not in your strategy, the best of the best, that's how they're presenting it. So don't get left behind because they're going to say yes to that supplier versus you because you're not bringing anything of value.
Right.
Exciting. Definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joshua, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
And thank you all for listening or watching. As always, you can see all of our podcasts on our website at highimpactanalytics.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.